We are starting into chapter 2, which is our chapter on reasoning and proof. Today we're going to talk about conditional statements. So, conditional statements is simply an if-then statement. The hypothesis follows the word if, the conclusion follows the word then. The mathematics symbol that we use for that is we do P arrow Q. So, what we're telling you is the hypothesis is P and the conclusion is Q. So the way that that's read is when you see P arrow Q, what that's read is if P then Q. So an example of a conditional statement, if today is Wednesday, then tomorrow is Thursday. Today is Wednesday is our hypothesis. Tomorrow is Thursday is our conclusion. If a polygon has 3 sides, hypothesis, then it is a triangle, conclusion. Okay, so let's try that. Let's see if we can do this. So we're going to write each statement as a conditional if it is not already. Then I would like you to underline the hypothesis and circle the conclusion. So let's start at the first one. If 2 angles are vertical, then they are congruent. It is already written as a conditional. My hypothesis is 2 angles are vertical. The conclusion then is they would be congruent. Okay? Now, the second one, 2 adjacent angles share a common ray. That is not written in a conditional statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off and we're going to say if 2 angles are adjacent, then they share a common ray. So in this, the 2 angles are adjacent, that's our hypothesis. They share a common ray, that is our conclusion. Okay, let's try another one. Omaha residents live in Douglas County. So if you are a resident of Omaha, then you live in Douglas County. Okay, so let's go through, underline our hypothesis. You're a resident of Omaha. We're going to go through and look for our conclusion. You live in Douglas County. Okay, so that is how we write a conditional statement. If the hypothesis, then the conclusion. Now, not all conditional statements are true. They can make a false statement. So what we need to do is we need to be able to evaluate, are these true? So the truth value just simply looks at whether a conditional statement is true or false. For a statement to be true, it must be always true. Okay? It cannot have any counterexamples at all. It always is going to be true. For a statement to be false, it only has to have one counterexample. One example where it would make it false, and then that is going to make the entire conditional false. Okay? So let's determine if these would be true or false. If it is false, we should be able to write a counterexample. Here we go. If you attend Papillion La Vista High School, then you are a monarch. And that would be true. Our mascot here at Papillion La Vista High School is the Monarchs. So if you attend here, then you are a monarch. Okay, let's try the next one. If 2 angles add up to 90 degrees, then the angles are complementary. Well, remember the definition of complementary is 2 angles that add up to 90. So that is also true. Okay, let's try the next one. If you live in Nebraska, then you live in Papillion. Now, if you live in Nebraska, you live in Papillion, here's the question you need to ask. Could you live anywhere else in Nebraska that is not Papillion? And the answer is yes, that is true. So this conditional is going to be false. And our counter example could be Omaha, Lincoln, Bellevue, Seward. I mean, there's Grand Island. There's a bunch of them that you could live in Nebraska and not live in Papillion. Okay, so false, counterexample. There's a bunch of counterexamples. Pick one. Let's try this next one. If a number is divisible by 5, then it's an odd number. Okay, so let's think. Numbers divisible by 5. Well, you have 5, you have 15. Those are both odd, but you also have 10. 10 is divisible by 5, and that is not odd. So it's going to be a false statement. And my counterexample could be 10, 20, 30. All of those are divisible by 5, but they're not odd. Okay, so truth value. Analyze, is the statement actually true or false? Now, the last thing we're going to talk about with just the conditional statements is a negation. The negation of a statement is the opposite of the original statement. Typically, the key word for negating statements is the word not. Now, if you look here, the symbol we use that little tilde in front of P. So that is read as not P or the negation of P. So if I give you an example, original statement, cats are born with their eyes open, and I say, okay, give me the negation statement, we would simply say, cats are not born with their eyes open. That not, putting that not in there, is the opposite of the original statement. Now, in the second one, it says dogs are not better than cats. So if I want to write the negation of that, we're actually going to take the not out. So we're going to say dogs are better than cats, because it is the opposite of the original statement. Okay, and that is how we do conditional statements.